Okay. So Bilam says to Hashem, I was commissioned by Bilak to be cover, to curse them. And we explained yesterday, the word cover is a very intense type of curse, to pierce them, to obliterate them. But he used the term v'yirashtiv, not to just drive them out of land, but to drive them out of existence. Bilam's hate, we said Rashi cited, was more intense than Balak's, because Balak was only for self-preservation. Bilam, his hate was rooted in because he cannot tolerate what the Jews represent. So Hashem says that the Lom Elokim El Bilam, Posuk B'Yud Beis Per Chav Beis and Balak. Elokim says to Bilam, Lo Sed Chimayim. You should not go with them. Lo Sor Esa'om. You should not curse them. Ki Baruchu. Why should you not curse them? Because they're blessed. Meaning, the symbol of their name means that they're not deserving of a curse. Therefore, you have no right to curse them because they're blessed. Let's see Rashi. Lo sei l'chimoim, omelim kein, akalim b'mkomi. If that's the case, even though I'm not going to go curse them where they are, I'll curse them here from my location. Long distance curse. I mean, how do you understand that? God says, don't curse them. Don't curse them means don't get too close to curse them. What is this all about? And Hashem said, Ki Baruchu, they're blessed. So Rashi explains slightly the dialogue between Bilam and Hashem. Omalo losor lehem. Losor some no. You should not curse the people at all, whatsoever, even long distance. Omalom kenavorchem. If that's the case, let me bless them. If they're innately, they don't deserve to be cursed, let me bless them. Omalem enim tzrichim novichoscho. They don't need your blessing. Ki Baruchu, because they're innately blessed. They're blessed from me. They don't need your blessing. Moshel omlim litzira. This is something you say to a tzira. Let's say it's a wasp. Something you say to a wasp. Lo medushach, lo meuktzach. We're not interested in your honey. We're not interested in your sting, because it's inevitable. If you take the honey of a wasp or some kind of insect that bites, because when you take the honey, you get stung. That because Bilam is a representation of evil, even your blessing is a curse. Therefore, we say to the tzira, lo miduvshach lo mitzvah, not from your honey, not from your sting. But what's this dialogue all about? You should not curse them. I'll curse them long distance from where I am. I won't go there. So Hashem says no. He says, so let me bless them. They don't need your blessing. Why? Because even your blessing, it's coupled with the problem, with the curse. Your blessing basically is a curse. So before we explain this, there's an interesting balaturim here. We said that the term kavo is a much more piercing, devastating curse than Torah. Torah means curse, but it's not as intense. He says, I was commissioned to what? To cover thee. Balak asked me to use the term cover, the most intense level of curse. Even though Balak never said that. He said Torah, which is a lesser level. So he said, Hashem says, Lo Soraso, meaning, don't even give him the lesser curse. That's what Hashem said to him. This is Balaturim. Take a look in the Balaturim. Bilamama Kovali, Koshbohu Shivalo Tor, Afilu Cheson Koldu. Even a curse that will diminish them slightly, even that you shouldn't do, which is Tor. Kavo means obliterate them. That's an obliterate that curse. Hashem says Lo Torah so. Now, if you take a look in the Tzipurno, so he says, Hashem says, don't go with them. Lo say l'chimoim. So if you look in the Tzipurno, and there's a commentary, Avo bishlo tekalim lo telech. Even if you agree not to curse them, you shouldn't go with them. Why? Kedei shel titein ein necho bohem noro. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos tells us, what was the difference between Talmidi Avram Avinu and Talmidi Bilam? Avram Avinu had ayin tova. He had a good eye. Bilam was the personification of the evil eye. Whatever he looked at was scorched earth. So that he says, even though you're not going to curse them, but if you're going to go there and you're going to look at them, you're allowing your eyes to be put upon them. That's the equivalent of destroying them. Therefore, I don't even want you to go. I don't want you to visually even to see them for that reason. So that's the dialogue. He said, Kova, he says, Losor. I was commissioned to obliterate them through my curse, even a slight curse. Don't go, I'll bless them. Your blessing is the equivalent of a curse. Because it's like you say to this insect, not your honey, not your sting. Well, don't even go. Because your eye is evil. And setting your eye upon them will harm them very seriously. Therefore, this is the dialogue between Hashem and Bilam. But it's interesting, he cites a Gemara in Brochus. It says, Nosad Edav Bo V'nasa Gal Shalatzomus. It says one of the Amoroim looked at a person and he became a heap of bones. But there it's talking about somebody who was a tzaddik. So similarly here, just as the tzaddik, the Gemara tells over story Rabbi Yochanan that he had a student and the student questioned the veracity of what he said. And when he came back and he said, it's exactly as you said, he says, you mean you didn't believe until now? He says he looked at him, he turned into a pile of bones. So similarly here, whatever Bilam looked at, it turned to a pile of bones. So over here, there's a famous Rabbeinu Bachri, which I mentioned in the past. Rabbeinu Bachri cites a Gemara at the end of Ravkana. Ravkana was a Talmud of Rav. Rav was in Bavel, and Ravkana as wrote of being Rav's, one of his primary students, became a leading Torah sage. And in Bavel, there was a person, a Jew, who was an informer, and then it was under the Persian control, and he was an informant to the government. And many Jews were being killed due to his informing on them. So Ravkana summons him, and so what is he? So in essence, this Jew, by being informed, he's a rodef. But what's the halacha rodef? You have an obligation to kill him. Because a person puts a Jew's life in jeopardy, a rodef, the Torah says, even though you're a bystander, you have to take out that rodef, the pursuer. So Rav Khan summons him to his bezdin, to his court, and he says, you realize your behavior is unacceptable, and if you continue in the behavior that you're doing, you're going in that direction, we're going to kill you. The moment Rav Khan says that, Rav Khan realizes that he's going immediately to inform on Rav Khan to the government, to the Persian government, and he's going to be killed. Rav Khan takes him immediately and breaks his neck and kills him. Now, Rav Khan killing this informer, he killed a government agent. He became immediately a wanted man. They put up posters all over Bavel, Rav Khan's picture, wanted. Rav Khan had to flee from Bavel, he fled to Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael was not under Persian control, so he was in safe territory. Rav Khan, we say there's a concept, even though this man had to be killed, but why was Rav Khan chosen to be the one to kill him? So that, to a certain degree, indicates something negative about Rav Khan, that he was given this chore to take out a Jew. So he realized he has to do tshuva. Rav Khan has to do tshuva. What was the tshuva he accepted upon himself? He had said that to atone for what I did, for whatever, not killing him is the problem. That indicates there's some kind of shortcomings in him. He accepted upon himself that for 7 years, he will not reveal his greatness publicly. Publicly, he will not reveal his Torah greatness. Because, as I said, he was a leading Torah sage. He comes to Yerushalayim. Who do you think he meets? Right? I'm not sure it was Rehov Yafa or in Gula. I'm not sure which neighbor it was. It's a joke. So he meets Reish Lakish, and he says to Reish Lakish was the primary student the closest student of Rabbi Yochanan. And he says to him, what was the discussion today in the Beis Medrash? So he tells him what it was. Immediately, Rav Khan enters into a dialogue, but this is on a private level, not public. And he goes and he interacts with him in a way Reish Lakish never experienced such an interaction in Torah. He was like amazed. He was never seen such greatness in Torah. Immediately goes running to his Rebbe, Rabbi Yochanan, and he says to Rabbi Yochanan, Ari Olam Bavil. A lion has just descended from Bavil. He knew he was a Babylonian. Came from Bavil. Ari Olam Bavil. So Rabbi Yochanan says to Rish Lakish, invite him to the public shir. Invite him to the public shir. They invite Ravkana, and the way they sat the students, the most advanced students, the most special students, they sat in the front row. And they had 7 rows of students. And if the person was indicated that he wasn't what they thought he was, they put him back another row. So they put Rav Khan in the front row with Rish Lakish, who's the ultimate maven of what greatness is. He says, there's nobody such as Ravkana. They put him in the front row. Rabbi Yochanan at the time was 140 years old at this time. And he was very old, and he could not see because he had very long lashes, eyelashes, and he sat on 7 pillows. So they seat Rav Khan in the front row, and Rabbi Yochanan puts out a question to Rav Khan. Rav Khan doesn't respond. They put him back a row. He asks him another question, doesn't respond because he made this commitment of silence for 7 years. He asked him 7 questions. They put him back to the last row. He's sitting in the 7th row. So Rav Khan says to himself, the reason why I accepted silence was to atone for whatever it was. The embarrassment I have to be put back 7 rows, to be seen as a dunce, those 7 rows are equivalent of 7 years of silence. So he speaks up, Ravkana, he says, I'd like to start all over again. Let's start from the first question. And as I said, Rabbi Yochanan sat on 7 pillows. This is the Gemara verbatim. So he asked him the first question, Rav Khan responds, he refutes Rabbi Yochanan, whatever he said just decimates him. They take one of the pillows out from under Rabbi Yochanan. The next question, again, they take out another pillow. Finally, after 7 questions, and he decimates every one of the positions of Rabbi Yochanan is sitting on the ground. He's not sitting on pillows any longer. So Rabbi Yochanan never experienced such a thing. So he says to his students, I'd like to see what this man looks like. Because as I said, his lashes were very long, or he had these very heavy eyelids, he couldn't see. So he says, pick up my eyelids that I should be able to see. Ravkana had a lip deformity, and if you looked at him, he looked like he was smirking. But he wasn't smirking. It's just the way he looked. So Rabbi Yochanan sees him, and he thinks he's smirking, He beat the rabbi. Which was, so if you did it and you meant l'shem shamayim for the sake of truth, one thing. But if it's here that you beat the rabbi and you showed up the rabbi, it says, cholesh daite, Rabbi Yochanan felt terrible, and he looked at him, and he died. He looked at him and he died. So Rabbi Achi asks, Rabbi Yochanan was the epitome of Kedusha, of holiness. When we speak about the evil eye, the reason why it brings about such level of destruction and death is because it emanates from an impure source, something which is evil. Bilam had the evil eye, but Rabbi Yochanan was Kedusha. So why, when he looked at him, why was the result of that death to Ravkana? That's the question Rabbi Achi asks. There's a whole story which follows. Later they tell Rabbi Yochanan that he looked like he was smirking, he wasn't smirking, but it was a lip deformity. So Rabbi Yochanan says, if that's the case, I have to resurrect him. I have to bring him back to life. So Rabbi Yochanan goes with his students, and they go to the cave where Ravkana was buried, and he goes to the cave. There's a viper which encircles the mouth of the cave. Rabbi Yochanan can't go in to resurrect the dead, to resurrect Ravkana. So Rabbi Yochanan says to the viper, slither away, let the Rebbe come see his Talmud. The Rebbe should see the student. The viper doesn't budge. So Rabbi Yochanan says, let the colleague go see his colleague. The viper doesn't budge. Then he says, allow the student to see his Rebbe. The viper slips away, goes in, he resurrects it. That's the end of the story. That's the Gemara at the end of Ravkana. So Rabbeinu Bach asks, but what's it all about? Rabbi Yochanan, as I said, why, when he looked at him, why did he turn him into a heap of bones? As we're saying here. So Rabbeinu Bach says something phenomenal. He says, Rabbi Yochanan in his lifetime never had a lapse of Torah thought. Never. In his lifetime. The Gemara tells us in Brochus that although that you're not permitted to meditate in Torah in an unclean location, when he would walk through alleyways which weren't clean, he would put his hand over his mouth. That was his position to be able to speak in Torah. Because since his mouth was covered, that permitted him to speak in Torah. There wasn't a moment that he was detached from Torah. When he was supposed to be involved, he was involved. Ravkana was the cause, because he had believed that Ravkana was smirking, and it made him feel the way he felt, it caused a lapse of Torah thought. So because Ravkana was the cause of the lapse of Torah thought, that's the reason why Hashem took out Ravkana. Rabbi Yochanan's Torah was so valuable to Hashem that it's like, a person's on a long car machine, and all of a sudden the power goes out. You understand? The power goes out, the person dies. Ravkana's Torah was so essential to existence. Ravkana causing this lapse of Torah thought for Rabbi Yochanan, it was devastating to on every level. As a result of that, that's the reason why Ravkana deserved to die. This is how Rabbi Bacha in this week's parsha, Bolok, explains the Gemara Ravkana. Bilam, his eye it emanated from evil, as it discerns between Talmidei Avram Avinu and the students of Bilam. They were evil, so therefore their eye was an expression of that evil. Therefore, that's what he says, even if you're not going to curse them, even to any degree. But don't go with them, because going with them, when you look at them and you look at the location, your eye will bring about a level of destruction. Therefore, you should not go. If the core of Bilam was evil, that means the eye is the expression of that evil. If the core is pure, that's called ayin tova. It's always something positive. So even the bracha that emanates from something which is evil, ultimately there'll be a result, there'll be a ramification of something which is negative. I could serve you something which is nutritious, but if it's tainted with all kinds of bacteria, which you don't realize it, although when you eat it, if you taste the taste, and you may feel the value, but after it sits for a while and simmers, then all of a sudden you start feeling the negative effects. It'll have destructive and devastating effects on the person. That's the bracha of Bilam. The Gemara says, "Mirisham yetze resha." From evil, evil comes. Evil brings evil. Even when it's expressed as a bracha, ultimately it's not a bracha. It's a curse. Doeg Adomi was the detractor of David Melech. He had an envy for David. He cannot tolerate that. Why? Doeg Adomi, he wasn't an Edomite. He was a young man, but he had a level of genius in Torah and renown that he would cause the elders of the Sanhedrin, he was the head of the Sanhedrin, to blush. That's how brilliant he was. That people were twice his age, he would cause them to blush. He was called Doeg Adomi. He was the red one, because he caused other people to turn red. And it was interesting. But David, although he was the son-in-law of Shaul, and David was a warrior, he killed Goliath, and when he went to war, he always was the victor, so on and so forth. But David's claim to fame was he was the leading Torah sage of his generation. That means he was competition for Doeg. But what bothered Doeg? David never gave a halachic ruling where he ever had to retract a ruling. He was always Mechaber Schweitzer Libid Hilsa. He always bullseye every single time. Never made a mistake. He merited a siyata d'shmaya, that he had a level of clarity in Torah, never made a mistake. But Doeg made mistakes. There were times Doeg had to retract his decision. He could not tolerate this Doeg. Even in genius, he may have been a greater genius, but always to be on mark, he wasn't like David. And it's something he couldn't tolerate. And that's why ultimately, when he went and he informed on Ir Nov Kohanim, Nov, the city of Kohanim, that they harbored David when he was a fugitive. And as a result of that, the city was wiped out. And that's why Shaul and his family were killed. Because of Lashon Hara, that Doeg had informed Shaul that they had harbored this person who's trying to topple his kingdom, David. And he gave the order to kill them. So he goes to Yoav, he says, "You're my head of whatever, head of state. I want you to do it." He says, I'm not going to kill innocent people. I'm sorry. So he gave the order. You know who killed them? Every one of them, Doeg. Doeg killed. His hate for David was such that he went and he murdered a whole community. So because Shaul gave that order, Shaul and his family were killed in the battle with the Plishtim. Doeg also was killed, died. He wasn't even 35 years old. He passed away. Didn't even live half his age because of this. But what was it? What really got Shaul? Initially, why did Shaul believe that David is out to undermine his kingdom? We know that there was a special relationship between David and Yonasan. They had a very close relationship. They loved one another. They would give their lives to one another. And Doeg had said to Shaul that he wanted to hear about David. It's a son-in-law. You're proud. You're proud you have such a son-in-law. And he says he outpaces your son. When he said that he outpaces his son, because he knew that exactly would touch a raw nerve in Shaul, that's the way they'll topple David. By creating this animosity between the two of them, ultimately David will be destroyed because Shaul will hunt him down and kill him. But again, he had said he outpaces your son. That was the intent. But something, so what? He outpaces, he's greater, and it was the truth. But if that truth is going to touch somebody negatively and create a false narrative, that's Lashon Hara at the most extreme level. And that was the intent of Doeg when he did it.
I can share about that.
Moshe mentioned the other day, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go into the land. Why did Moshe want to go into the land so badly? Why? Because he says, I want to go on the land. I want to see the land. I want to see it. What did he want to see the land? So Chazal tell us that if Moshe Rabbeinu would have gone to the land and would have come, the Jews would have never gone into Golus. His blessing through his being there would have brought about such a level of protection, the Jews would have never been exiled. Never. And since ultimately they had to be exiled because they fell short of what they should have been, therefore Hashem said, you're not going in. But he said, I want to see the land. Hashem says, okay, go to the top of the mountain. You'll be able to see the land from there. I mean, visually, you can't see the land. The areas which were covered. So Chazal, miraculously, Hashem showed him every bit of the land, although it was from a distance. He was able to see the land. So that much he was able. He wasn't able to walk the land, but he was able to visually see the land. Why? And why did he want to see the land? Because he wanted the Jews should be the greatest beneficiary of his Ayin Tova to put the Jews in the best place, to give them the best chance. So what was Bilam was the Ayin Ra. The God says, I don't want to put your eyes on them. Because of what? Because of what you represent. We said, Lo bidusha, lo biutzach. We don't want your honey, we don't want your stink, because it goes hand in hand. To the contrary, to the antithesis of that, Moshe Rabbeinu was the ultimate positive eye, and as a result of that, that's why he wanted to go in. I always say, whenever Moshe Rabbeinu prayed for Klal Yisrael, why did he love the Jews so much? Why? There's a mitzvah of Avto Reicho Kamocha. So he had said in the name of the Ramak, why should you love your fellow as you love yourself? What's the reason? Because in essence, every Jewish soul is connected to every Jewish soul. There's a network called the Jewish people. So when one Jew does something positive, everybody's a beneficiary of that positive, because the whole system is infused with something positive. And when you do something negative, you bring some negative into the system, and you're actually bringing down the system. So when you do something for another Jew, really doing for yourself, you're the beneficiary. It's like, you invest with somebody that you don't like that much. You invest with him, you're going to make phenomenal profits. So you're going to be the beneficiary. Identically, that's what the Reicha Kamocha. This is how the Ramak explains it. So why do you do for the other? Because even if you don't like the guy, but factually speaking, when you do for him, you do it for yourself. That's the Ramah. Moshe Rabbeinu, why did he love the Jewish people? When Hashem says, I will destroy them, and you'll be the future. You'll be the future of the Jewish people. So he says, the Jewish people will emanate from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. If you have a chair that has three legs, and they're now able to continue a chair that stands on one leg, myself, do you think I'll be able to continue? My descendants are going to be able to survive it? No. Therefore, he prayed that Hashem should annul the decree. They should not be destroyed. But what was the root of Moshe? What was driving Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person who ever lived. Hashem says he's basing them on his most faithful servant. It's Moshe Avdi. What's Moshe Avdi? A servant lives for the master. Hashem says, I created this world l'chvodi, for my glory. The only people who could bring about that glory are only the Jewish people, because only Jewish people have relevance in Torah. We're the only ones. If that's the case, if Chas v'Sholom, he should destroy the Jewish people, what happens to God's glory? Because the Jews were the means for that glory. So whenever he went to bat for us, to the nth degree, and even he put himself in jeopardy, it was only for the sake of Hashem. So the love for the Jewish people, because they were the object for God's glory. So it's not, I love my fellow because when I do for him, I'm doing for me. That's not the reason. Like Chazal tell us in Pirkei Avos, Havi Rotzol Mitzakalo. You should even pursue seem ordinary because you don't know the extent of the reward. But if you're doing it for the sake of God, what difference does it make? You're not doing it for the sake of reward. The answer is because we're speaking to every echelon of Jews. Sometimes you need incentives. You have to understand the value. The only reason why you're not doing this is because you believe it's less. Your evaluation is incorrect. But if you do it for the sake of God, it's irrelevant what the reward is. I'm not doing it for the reward. I'm doing it for the sake of the master. Moshe Rabbeinu, whenever he prayed for the Jews, his love for the Jews, because they are the people, because only through them are you able to bring about God's glory. To Moshe Rabbeinu's love for God and his negation to Hashem and his level of selfless servitude was only because that's the reason, and the Jews were the only ones who could bring about that. That's the reason why he went to the nth degree on their behalf. They knew. Rav Khan, there's a letter that was written by the Vilna Gaon. It's called the Geras HaGra. There was a time the Vilna Gaon wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, and he was going to leave his family and not come back. For some reason, he came back. Nobody knows the reason why he didn't go. He traveled, he's away, and he came back. For whatever reason, he did not go to Eretz Yisrael. But ultimately, that was his dream. So he wrote a letter, it's called the Geras HaGra, instructing his family how they should conduct themselves because he's taking leave of them. He's not going to be there. So there's an introduction to that Geras HaGra, to the letter that the Gra had written to his family, which is written by Rav Chaim Volozhiner. Rav Chaim Volozhiner was the closest student of the Vilna Gaon. And he writes, so Rav Chaim Volozhiner writes over there, and he cites Chazal, Lo kom novi b'Yisrael k'Moshe. There was no greater prophet among Jews as Moshe Rabbeinu. He was the greatest prophet. But what's the inference? Among Gentiles, there was a prophet as great as Bilam. As great as Moshe. Who is that? Bilam. So he asks, how could he even say Bilam was the equivalent of Moshe? Moshe Rabbeinu prophesied face to face. Bilam was a person who was involved in bestiality. He had every human failing that a person can have. How could he be as great as Moshe Rabbeinu? That he could have that level of clarity. If he had that clarity, there's no way he could have behaved the way he behaved. That's the question which is asked by Rav Chaim Volozhiner. So he explains it with a moshel, with an allegory. He says it's a known fact. An eagle flies at heights that no other bird can fly. There's an expression, eagle-eyed. And he explains that when eagle flies, an eagle could see hundreds of miles. Why? Because its eyes at the height and the direction, the slant, it's able, the sun reflects off the topography of the earth in a way that with its eyes, it magnifies things which are at hundreds of miles away. So that's the reason, because the eagle sees things with clarity due to the infraction, the light of the eyes, and whatever it is. That's why an eagle sees.
The bat.
What about a bat? A bat is blind. A bat has no eyes. But a bat has a natural sensitivity for light, that the moment it has a sense of light, it goes to the deepest recesses of a cave, to the darkest locations. It cannot tolerate light, because but the moment there's any light, it senses it in a way, it has acuity for light to that degree. Maybe even greater than the eagle. The eagle uses light to have clarity. The bat has no idea what light is, because it has no eyes. But it has a sense of what it senses light. Lokom Navi B'Yisro Kamoshe, but Bilam, Moshe Rabbeinu, what he sensed, it's not only he sensed it, he saw it. Because he saw it, therefore Moshe was Moshe Rabbeinu. If you see what God is and you understand, you can internalize it, you totally negate it to God. Bilam, what Moshe saw, he had a sense of that. Did he know what it was? He had no idea what it was. Therefore, he could be involved in bestiality, be corrupted in every human quality. Doesn't make a difference. That's who Bilam is. As a result of that, he believed he could hoodwink God, as we said. He thought that there's certain lapses in God's awareness, and he'll get it under the radar. He'll be able to curse the Jews. That's what he believed. But if he would have had the clarity of Moshe Rabbeinu, understanding who God is, it's impossible. How's that possible? The answer is he did not have that clarity. It was only a sense, and because he only had a sense, therefore he was able to behave as he behaved. That's Rav Khan Voloshin. Hashem was giving the Torah to the Jewish people. Chazal tell us heaven came to earth, and the world didn't have the capacity to tolerate Hashem's presence. So the world was quaking in a way. It seemed to be the world was coming to an end. There were thunder and lightning and fire. The nation of the world said. So what do? They come running to Bilam, and they say Bilam's the prophet of nations. They want to get a reading. What's going on? They say to Bilam, Hashem is destroying the world. God is destroying the world. He says, how could he be destroying the world? He made a covenant with existence. After the great flood, he's not going to destroy the world. So they say to Bilam that the covenant was with water, but maybe he's destroying the world with fire. He says, you bunch of fools, don't you realize Hashem Oslamo Yideh? Don't you realize Hashem is here giving his power to the Jewish people? So they said, Hashem Shalom. If that's the case, let God bless the people with peace. We're out of here. That's for them. That's not for us. But the only one who could give them that reading was only Bilam, because he was a prophet. That was his value. So if he gave you told you what was going on, and they understood what was going on, how do you make a left turn? You should have made a right turn. Therefore, you know something, there's no basis for any complaint you have now. You had the ultimate opportunity, you turned it down, it's over. That's the value of Bilam. So the rest of the story, that he's corrupted that, has no relevance to that particular moment.
How about Bilam himself?